Good morning. Welcome to this week's IGTV. My name is Allie Payne, and I am talking about what is it going to take to get your teenager to do their chores when you ask them. Like, they constantly procrastinate, they don't care, they don't listen. You are feeling super disrespected, frustrated, like you're going to lose your and you just don't know, like, how is this child even a spawn of you? They just don't seem to care about anything. Okay, well, if this is something that you're struggling with, then you are in the right place, because we're going to talk about this morning. I'm going to provide ways for you to better understand the teenage brain, why your teenager isn't doing what you asked, and how you can go about changing this in the future so it's not so frustrating and it's not so painful. Thanks everybody for joining me. If you're here on Instagram, give me a follow. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. My 5-day challenge is coming up, and if you're not a part of it, you're going to want to do that. So if you hit the link in my bio or you go to my website, alliepayne.com, there's a web banner right across the top. My 5 days to a better relationship with your teen, which these are some of the things we talk about in there, is coming up starting January 10th. That's next week. You're going to want to get in that. It's only $15 Canadian for 5 days of content in a private live group. All the content stays for over 30 days, so you won't miss a thing. Do not stress. Go at your own pace. Revisit, rewatch. It's going to be amazing. If you have any questions about that, just message me here on Instagram at Allie Payne, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Okay. Thanks, Lacey. Thanks for recommending the 5-day challenge. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's talk about teenagers, chores, and procrastination, because it is so frustrating. Like, so frustrating. This is probably one of the number one things that I hear from parents that is their greatest frustration. This is literally probably it. And that's why I also talk about this on night number 4 in my 5-day challenge coming up next week. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm sorry. My name is Allie Payne. I am a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach. I've been working with parents and teens for 15 years now to help them end the painful disconnection, emotional blowups, and stressful silences to build relationships on trust and respect. I was a very troubled teen. I came from a very toxic, some really negative relationship stuff. And so what I'm sharing with you today is everything from my experience of that teen, all of my decades of therapy, healing, raising 2 boys myself, as well as my coach training and certification. So I do hope this is helpful for you. And if it is, leave me a comment. Let me know. All right, let's jump in. Okay. Ooh, from Mexico. Thanks for joining from Mexico. All right. So let's talk about, here's a scenario that I hear about often. Okay. You ask your teenager to do the dishes, let's say. Okay. So let's say you're just finishing eating. Picture this. You've just finished eating. You put your cutlery down. Everyone finishes eating. You look at your teenager in the eyeballs. You make eye contact and you say, son or daughter, whatever their name is, whomever they are. And you say, I'd like you to wash the dishes tonight. Or maybe it was already their turn to wash dishes and you're just reminding them. You're saying, so you're on dishes tonight, okay? And they're like, yep. And you're in your mind, you're thinking, oh, dear Lord, help me. Please help me to be patient while I see if this teenager is actually going to wash the dishes. Does that sound familiar? Like, literally, does that scenario sound familiar? Just write me a heck yeah in the comments if that sounds familiar. Okay. So then the dishes, everyone clears the table. I hope your teenagers help you clear the table. And the dishes get over to the kitchen sink and in the dishwasher, etc., whatever. And you are, oh, sorry, I hit my camera there. You are saying to your, right? Okay. You are saying to your teenager, literally, you're looking at your watch. Are you going to do them now? How about now? Are you going to do them now? So when are you going to start those dishes? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Does that sound familiar? Where you, perhaps because of past frustration, Yes, feeding the dog, similar thing. Taking out the garbage, similar thing. If you are constantly sitting there watching the minutes tick by, your stress level is going like this. Your patience is going like this. You're like, I can't do this again. Someone is not going to make it out alive. Okay. If you were asked to do something, yes, you lose trust 100%. This is about trust. Absolutely, I get it. Absolutely not arguing that for 1 second. If your boss at work asked you to write a report, okay, and this is what they said to you. They said, I would like you to write XYZ report, okay, and I need to make sure that you get that done. And you're like, okay, great. And then every half hour or so, they drop by your office door and they say, hey, have you done that yet? How about now? Now? Have you started that? How would you feel if you had that? I know that when you are saying these things, you are coming from a position of not trusting if your teenager is going to do that. I understand that's where you're coming from, 100%. What I'm trying to get you just to see for a second is if an adult asked you to do something and that same adult did that same thing to you, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Have you started? So when are you going to get that done? You would be like, bye-bye, I'm not doing it. Okay. Hear me out. The teenage brain is similar. The more you ask them to do something, it is by nature promised, guaranteed, the less you will get of it. Because the psychology is that the more someone feels pushed into something, yes, so this is exactly it. It depends, micromanaging, yes, but it does depend on the expectation of time. But you'll notice I never said that. Are you listening? Did you notice when I said, could you do the dishes tonight? I didn't say that, did I? I did not say time. So I'm going to get there. And that's one of the points. Is that when the more that you feel pushed into doing something, it triggers your brain into a mild state of fight or flight, which looks like defensiveness. So you start to stand your ground and push back and be like, no, just no, stop, get back, no. Well, your teenager's brain does the same thing. So they dig in and do less of what you want. So that's what's happening when you're doing micromanaging. Okay? That is exactly what happens. The more that you remind or ask, so you're going to do it now? How about now? And you're literally just sitting there waiting for them to get up and do it because you don't trust they're going to, which I understand. So let's start with step 1, which I posted yesterday on my Instagram and my TikTok. 5 steps to getting your teenager to complete a chore. Just let's start with that. It's not the whole answer. I'm just going to start there. The first is you must be very clear with your teenager about the time frame. So if I said to them, hey, maybe they were already on dishes, that would be clarity. Do you have a dish schedule? We have a dish schedule, a dinner and a dish schedule. It's on our fridge at home. It says exactly who's on dishes and who's on dinner. So it manages expectations up front. It's not a surprise. They have to plan ahead, like what they're going to make and what I'll help them, but I'm not going to do it for them. Exactly. And this is the problem is that, Lacey, thank you for that comment, is that the more you micromanage, the less trusted they feel. But the irony is you're asking because you don't trust. So do you, it turns into this giant, rabbit wheel, gerbil hamster wheel that you can't get off. So this is how to get off. So you need to be specific about the time. I would like the dishes done by 9 o'clock. I would like the dishes done by 8:30. Whatever. We have a rule in our house. It has to be done by 9 o'clock because it's loud in the kitchen. Our bedroom's next to the kitchen and then it just doesn't work. So that's our rule, is if you're on dishes that night, it has to be done by 9 o'clock. So number one, you have to be very, very clear about the time frame. When is the task going to be done? Because if you say, can you do the dishes? My parents used to ask me all the time. I tell this story a lot. My parents used to say to me that they would like me to do the dishes tonight. That was at about 6 o'clock. Guess what I would do? I wouldn't do them. But do you want to know why? Because my parents and my sister were so perfectionistic or like driven, like, if I didn't do the dishes by 8 o'clock, one of them would get up and do the dishes. But they never asked me to do the dishes by 8 o'clock. They never asked me to do the dishes by 9 o'clock. They never said when. So if I said, well, I was going to do them at 9, because I was usually in my room doing homework, or I was at sports, one of those two things, they would do the dishes anyway. And then they would tell me what a failure and how lazy I was. Okay, but actually I thought I was kind of smart. I actually thought I was kind of smart because I knew if I didn't do them by 8 o'clock, they would go do them because it would piss them off so much. Well, then tell me that you want them done by 8. I know how to play that game. That was me as a teen, okay? So, yes, Erin, okay, I'm totally going to get to that. So you got to have a deadline. That's number one. Number two is you have to be really clear on what is the task. What is the task? I'm going to get to what happens when they don't do it. I'm going to get there, you guys. You got to follow me through on this one, okay? If you want the fast answer, then join my 5-day challenge next week. Hit the link in my bio, go to my website, alipayne.com, just hit the banner at the top, just go straight there. You'll get all the answers next week. I'm going to get there. You've got to be clear on what the task is. Like, what does complete look like? So let's keep this about the dishes. So the dishes, if you're doing the dishes in our house, what finish looks like is, first of all, you must use hot water and soap. I know that would seem like mind-blowing information. Teenagers are learning effective habits. So they're going to do everything the fast and simple way. It's not necessarily going to be done the thorough way, or perhaps the best way, or the way you would like. Okay? So hot water, soap. Second of all, you need to have, so we have a rule that when you do the dishes, you have to also wipe the counters. That means you have to wipe the counters down and give the kitchen table a wipe. Okay? If you're washing dishes, you're not the same person who's loading the dishwasher. That's one task is, so you got to be really clear. I know this sounds ridiculous, but really clear. When we wash dishes, that means that when you're finished, the cloth is rinsed out and hanging on the faucet, that the dishes are drying in the dry pan. We do not expect anyone to dry dishes in our house. Nope. Air dry. God dries our dishes every single night. Praise. All right. Awesome. We do not dry dishes. So just be really clear on your expectations. What does washing the dishes mean? And be explicit. Now, having said that, you need to understand teenagers don't care as much as you do. Period. They just don't care as much as you do. So expecting them to care as much as you do is going to drive you absolutely crazy. You're gonna go crazy. It's not worth it. They don't care as much as you do. So you got to be specific about that. Number 3, this is the answer to your question here as far as what if they don't do it by this specific time. Number 3 is this. When you and I grew up, we had far more specific external cues, behavior triggers. Think about it. You and I would go and watch TV, and there was commercial breaks. You couldn't fast forward. There was commercial breaks, and then the show would end. There was no streaming television. Those are 2 of the biggest cues you and I grew up with. And there was, if you're as old as I am, there wasn't a remote control. You had to get up and turn the TV off. You had to get up. That's 3 specific behavior cues, external triggers that would happen when we were younger. Our kids don't have those. Streaming television does not have cues. Smartphones do not have cues. They are not intended to. They were created to keep you sucked in with no sense of time. Video gaming, no sense of time at all. None of these things are your children's fault, and none of these things make your child irresponsible or lazy. They are a function of their environment. So, if you want your teenager to get the chore done on time, you need to find a way to set an external cue to trigger them to change behavior. It is how our brains work. And the teenage brain is a little thicker in getting through that not because they're stupid or they lack intelligence or they're lazy or irresponsible, but because the function of the adolescent brain, it is a busy place in there. They're doing a lot of processing and growing. We use a stove timer. Like in the kitchen, the stove timer. And when the stove timer goes off, no one is allowed to turn it off unless it's the person it was set for. So when you get the family yelling at you going, who's got the stove timer? The stove timer's going off. Who is that? Everyone comes out of their rooms and is like, oh, that's me. I got to start the dishes. No, the cue should not be you. No, the cue should never be you nagging them, because then you go back to building in defensiveness and defiance. Thanks, Lacey, for clarifying. I know that you knew what you're talking about. That's why you got to have an external cue that they take ownership of, not you. They set the timer. They plan how long is the dishes going to take. If the dishes have to be done by 8:30, then that timer better go off by 7:45. And the timer has to be something that helps them get up. You have to get them to set the timer. They set the timer and they turn the timer off. So external cues, develop some kind of external cue that is not you nagging. They get to take ownership of the process. Okay. So, I'm going to get to what happens if they don't do it, but I need to talk about some other parts of the brain first. Let's talk about the YerkesDodson Principle. Welcome to science class with Allie. Okay. This has been fascinating to me, and I got some of this from my super smart friend Ned Johnson, who wrote the book What Do You Say?, which I'm a giant fan of his for sure. So the YerkesDodson Principle is a physiological, not psychological, it's a physiological principle about stimulus, like stress, and arousal. Arousal meaning like when your body would want to do something, act, okay? So for young girls and women, they reach an optimal state of arousal, which means you're like, oh, I gotta go get that done. I should go finish that. Like you're willing to change your behavior to go complete a task, okay? That's what stress, AKA arousal, it's a physiological thing, okay? Women and young girls reach that optimal state much earlier than men or teen boys do. Men or teen boys reach the optimal state of arousal, stress, to go and complete a task much later. And if your child has ADHD, or particular ADHD in teenage boys, their state of arousal is way later. So for moms, women, you are perhaps more get on it, get stuff done. And you are so friggin' frustrated because your teenager has just got lead in their arse and they're not seeming to do it. Okay, but their brain is not your brain. The adolescent brain is not an adult brain. So they first of all don't have the same priorities that you do. So pretending, not going to help. You can teach them, but they don't, okay? The second thing is they are going to reach a different state of arousal. It's homework, it's all of those things. This is why natural consequences are so important, that they need to incur a natural consequence. That's how they learn to physiologically adjust it trains their brain to physiologically adjust their natural state of arousal so that they get things done in a more reasonable time. Okay? Now, They're not going to hop to it like you would though. So we're letting that go. Sing it with me. Let it go. Okay. Anyway. Now I want to talk about procrastination for a second. Okay. Yeah, ADHD, you're never gonna jump on things when you're ADHD. ADHD takes a longer time to reach an optimal level of physiological arousal. It is called the YerkesDodson Principle. Yes. So, let's talk about procrastination. Yes, letting them fail at time management is sometimes the lesson, but let's talk about that for one sec. Procrastination, but your teenager procrastinates. Okay, well, so why? There's a number of proven scientific reasons why teenagers procrastinate, okay? So the first is, do they believe that they have what it takes to complete the task? Now, I know this is going to seem ridiculous. I need you to hear this. If your teenager has done dishes, I'm going to stay on the same example, dishes. If they have done dishes before, and every time they do the dishes, they feel, I'm not saying you do this or not, I'm saying your teenager feels criticized, judged, or condemned because they didn't do it the way you wanted it, they didn't do it up to your standard, whatever you call it, whatever. Simple things like that actually will build procrastination because your teenager feels less belief or confident to complete the task in a way that will earn praise, that will have a positive outcome. Okay, so that says a lot about school right there, doesn't it? If your teenager's struggling in school, no shoot, they're going to procrastinate because they don't believe that they are going to create a positive outcome. Okay, so there is also, is it going to make a difference? Like what if I do that task or that thing, is it going to make a positive outcome for me? Is it going to matter? Dishes don't matter that much to teens. So we got to work with that. I'll get to that. Okay. There's, as I mentioned, there's fear of failure. Okay. Is there fear of criticism or judgment if they do the task incorrectly or don't do it properly? They will avoid the task. There's perfectionism, probably not with dishes, but there is perfectionism. That's going to get in the way as well. And then, as I said, being criticized for not doing it right or whatever that looks like. Okay, so procrastination comes in huge in that. Now, what if they still don't do it? Okay, this is what I'm talking about in my 5-day challenge coming up on day 4. If your teenager, they set the alarm, you've got the external cues, you've been really, really key about like what is complete, what is your actual expectation. You've been clear about that. They've got the external cues and they still don't do it. Okay, so let's talk about that. Actually, Julie, thank you for pointing that out. I want to say that too. When your teenager does do the task, positive reinforcement. Thank you for doing the dishes. I feel really appreciated when I've already cooked dinner and now I don't have to do that one less thing. I go to bed less stressed out. Let them know the impact. Not just thank you, because I'll tell you what, teenagers hate thank you. Do you know why? Do you know why they hate thank you? Because they think thank you is condescending when you ask them to do it. They didn't choose. It's proven. Go ahead. You can check out. I get it in my DMs all the time. If you say thank you for a task that you ask them to do, it's meaningless to your teenager. Now, I do think it's important to say thank you, but here's what's more important is showing appreciation. Thanks for helping with the dishes. I feel really, that's why I think you need to say after, I feel really respected when you help me out in the kitchen. I really appreciate you contributing to our house, how our house runs. I really appreciate you contributing to keeping the house, tidy-ish, so like we don't like live in, hoarders gone wild in 3 days because none of us like felt like doing anything. So you really need to positively reinforce when they do it. Okay. If you're going to micromanage and nitpick, like you missed a spot, oh, I have to redo that. Now that's a cautious thing. because sometimes refining the skill requires feedback. And that's okay, but you have to positive feedback first, positive reinforcement. Then you say, hey, next time you do that, this pot, here's an example. This pot, like, I know it can be really hard to get the grease out of there. I use this special scrubber to do that. If next time you do that pot, if you could just have a look at that, that would be great. So, you can still do mild correction, but you've got to do the positive as well. Positive is more important. Okay, so what if they don't do it even when you ask? This is where it comes to respect. Now you're having a two-way conversation about respect, okay? This is going to sound ridiculous for those parents of you that are watching, okay? I remember when I started this one with our kids, going from like, we're born consumers, okay? Like, we consume, we just consume, we take. That's how we arrive in the world. That's how it works. We don't have any other skills, so we take, okay? Our job as parents is to create people who also are prepared to give. So we go from consuming to contributing. Consuming to contributing. That's our job as parents, okay? So the way that I frame these conversations with our kids is that this is about contributing to the overall health of our house so that we all have the best experience that we can of living in this house. So if no one is going to help me with the dishes ever, I'm going to be grumpy, pissy, bitchy, frustrated, and angry. How much do you want to live with me? Well, I don't want to live with me, so I don't know if you want to live with me. I remember the first time I told my kids that I hated grocery shopping. Like, I literally hate grocery shopping. They were like, no way. I'm like, yeah, but I do it because that is part of my contribution to making sure this house runs and we all have the experience we want with good, healthy food in the fridge. We don't have to worry about dinners because I did the grocery shopping. I hate it. I also hate doing dishes. So, like, you got to talk about, this isn't about whether you like it or not. This is about everyone doing things we don't like to contribute to having the best experience we can together living in this house. I don't like doing laundry, but washing sheets. I'm washing sheets this morning, but I'm doing it. Now, I don't do it all. The kids are expected to strip their beds. They've got to get it downstairs. You change your own laundry over, okay? But this is about this conversation of saying, look, we all do things we don't like. Somehow I think they think that we do like it. I don't know. But we all do things we don't like, and we do it as a form of contribution, okay? So there's that. As far as allowance, yeah, we had it roughly tied. I've done a couple videos on helping your kids learn about money. Ours was roughly tied to allowance. It was more about, are you contributing to the house? And are you contributing to the healthy relationships in the house? As in, how are you treating your siblings and are you being respectful and kind? So ours was kind of loosely tied to a chore chart. But we did have a chore chart on the fridge, yes. And we have a rule in our house that if you cook dinner, then you don't do the dishes. So if you don't want to do dishes, then help me cook, or take that over. Okay, so if they don't get it done at the expected time, then you sit down and you have the conversation about contributing versus being a consumer. Your job as a parent is to teach your child to become an independent adult. And here's why I'm talking about this. Jewelry, this question, what should be done if they don't do it by the expected time? If you go straight to consequence, I guarantee you're on the hamster wheel. If you go straight to consequence, you're on the hamster wheel. I'm not just saying this for your benefit. This is the conversation you need to have with your teenager, because if you take it to a bigger level other than the dishes, you didn't do the dishes, you didn't do them, now you're getting a consequence. Your teenager's like, you know what? Step back. Meh. They're not listening. They don't care. This is about building two-way respect. Okay? Two-way respect. If you're going straight to repercussions, I still think you're missing the point. Okay? This is about creating a conversation with them that it is your job as an adult to teach them to be an independent adult, to teach them to be an independent human with independent skills. The way I talk to the parents I work with is it's your job to create the best roommate ever. Doesn't matter if they ever choose to have a partner or not, but they would be someone that everyone wants to share a space with because they are respectful. They manage their own space. They take responsibility for their environment. That's your job. Have that conversation with your teenager. You're not just trying to be a biatch and teach them all this stuff. You are trying to teach them healthy habits to build an independently successful adult. You're teaching them about contribution as opposed to just consuming. Okay? You are teaching them that if you go live with someone else, if I don't expect you to do the dishes here, then I am teaching your future roommate that they're going to pick up after you too. That's not fair. That's not fair and that's not true. Your future roommate is not going to pick up after you, so why would I pick up after you? Your future roommate, if you can have one, is going to expect you to contribute. So I'm going to expect you to contribute. Okay? This is about respect. So you have to have that conversation with them. Then you go to, okay, let's say the dishes didn't get done. I know that took us 33 minutes to get to this point, but if you go straight to consequence, you've missed the opportunity for all the other connection before you correct. Okay? Yeah, this is about roommate training. This is hardcore roommate training, period. Okay? So they don't get it done by the expected time. Then, number one, you say to your teenager, I notice, not you didn't. You say, I noticed the dishes didn't get done. Help me to understand. Tell me what happened. Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, your teenager may have mismanaged their time. They may not have set the appropriate external cues or created triggers to go and get that done. That's a different conversation than you failed, you suck, now you're grounded. It's a different conversation. Now you have a conversation with them that you can help them to develop different and better strategies to create external cues for time management. If they didn't do the dishes, then they have to get up early the next morning to wash them, or maybe they need to full stop what they're doing right now and they need to get those dishes done. And maybe you stand and do it with them because you do it as an opportunity to connect. You do it as an opportunity to connect. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that. Thank you, Muggleborn. So if they don't do the dishes on time, you ask why. You say, I noticed the dishes didn't get done. Help me to understand. Maybe they had more homework than they planned. Maybe their sport ran late. Maybe they didn't get a ride home when they needed. I don't know, but don't assume. And don't make this about a personal character cut. Because I promise you'll get more failure if you tell them they're a failure. You get what I'm saying there? Okay? So, maybe they're stressed out. So, what happened if they rather altogether? Okay, so they didn't get it done on time. Either they have to get up early the next morning and do it, or they do it right then. It's a full stop. They do it right then and there. You don't do it for them. You don't do it for them. That's not a natural consequence. Let's go back to the YerkesDodson Principle of creating a physiological amount of appropriate arousal to get a task done. If you do it for them, you have circumvented their brain, the physiology in their brain, from connecting an outcome to the appropriate amount of arousal to get that done. So if you do it for them, that literally will not be helping. It won't be helping them at all. Okay? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for the kind comments. If the teenager wants to help 100%, then you let them help. If they're still not going to do the dishes that night, Okay, so I go back to what would happen if I didn't grocery shop? Like, what would happen if I just didn't do the grocery shopping for a couple weeks? What would happen? Well, it might be really expensive because we'd be ordering in food 3 meals a day. So we might run out of money to do things that you wanted. If I didn't do the grocery shopping for a week, you might not have food. You might be hungry. You might not have the right food to do your sports, to do your activities, to go to school. So when I give you my word that I'm going to do the grocery shopping, even though I hate it, I'm going to make time and do the grocery shopping. So if you give me your word that you're going to do the dishes, I want to trust that you're going to do the dishes. Let's get that done together. Let's go do that together. Let's get it done. So do you see how you can move from, but if your son or your daughter says to you, well, that's your job. Okay, then you have a bigger conversation to have around respect and around roles, and that you actually choose to do grocery shopping. It's your choice. You don't have to do grocery shopping. You don't have to do laundry. You don't have to do any of it. In fact, you can go on strike if you wanted. I've done it when I was feeling unheard. I have done it. So when you say to them, look, they're already feeling like a failure because the teenage brain will always take what you say as criticism. That is a function of the teenage brain. So they're going to hear, you're a screw up, you didn't do the dishes. That's not what you're saying, but that's what they're going to hear, okay? So when you say to them, okay, let's go get those done together, then you get it done. And then you say to them, next time, how can we build in the better time management or external cues and triggers, knowing that a phone is intended to suck them in, video games are intended to suck them in, and streaming television is not going to remind them of anything. Okay, that's not their fault. That is not their fault. It does not make them lazy and irresponsible. You say to them, what can we do next time to make this better? And then you praise. Thanks for helping me with the dishes. You've got to positively reinforce, build self-esteem, let them know that you appreciate that might have felt hard and that it didn't go the way that you were asking and you still love them. Now, if they refuse to do it, then you're talking about consequences. But do you see how it took us 38 minutes to get to a consequence? Okay, if you jump straight to the consequence, you have disconnected and you have continued to undo respect and lower trust. So you're building, this is about teaching them healthy habits. I don't know about you, the first time you started any new healthy habit, were you perfect at it the first time? What about the 10th time? How about the 100th time? Probably not. We're not perfect beings. Your kids are learning new habits, so they're going to need not reminding and nagging. They're going to need to learn why that habit is important, that it is built on mutual trust and respect. That's how a household runs. That you honor and respect their efforts when they make time by telling them, I so appreciate your effort. I appreciate you made time to do this. I see how much homework you have and that you made time to do this. Thank you for stopping your video game to get the dishes done. I know you would way rather be playing video games. And I see that you made time to do the dishes and I feel really respected. Thank you. So it's lots of that. Lots of kids are, so it depends on their personality style and their love language. They might be a collaborative person and they'll do anything if they do it together. You might just have that, I'm a collaborative person. I would literally clean toilets 8 hours a day if someone will do it with me and we can put on fun music. I'm a collaborative, relational, fun person like that. Like that's one of my love languages. So work needs to be that way too for me. So I just know that about my brain. So yeah, if you have a collaborative child and they're like, let's do it together, then great. But it means you don't wash the dishes. They wash. You stand there with a tea towel and you dry. They have to do the bulk of the work. Okay? So the boundary is about, boundaries are not a tool to control. Boundaries have never been a tool to control. If your teenager refuses to do it and still says, screw you, I'm not doing the dishes, that's when you say to them, okay, I get that for whatever reason, you don't think it's important enough to do the dishes. I'm feeling disrespected. And so until we can reach an agreement about respecting each other and the contributions we make in this house, because we all contribute, we don't contribute the same. That would be weird and dumb. We all contribute differently based on time availability, based on age appropriate, based on lots of things, lots of things. But this is about going from me focused to we focused. And that's a very hard transition. It doesn't make your teenager lazy, irresponsible, or selfish. Okay? It's a very hard transition, especially in the teenage brain. So you talk to them about contribution, you talk to them about mutual respect. And you say to them, look, if you're not going to do the dishes, is there another task that you would choose to take on instead? Is there another task that you would like to be responsible for instead of dishes then? Because we are going to play a game of contribution here. This is about mutual respect. And I respect you enough to teach you this, and I respect you enough not to do it for you. So you pick. Maybe they pick something else. Maybe they love cleaning toilets. There are kids who love cleaning, literally, but not dishes. And you're like, okay, great. We're going to take you off dishes and you can do the dusting or the vacuum cleaning or the whatever. That's your thing if you love it. Sweet. Work with it. If they don't do it, then you start to have the consequence that is you know what? If you're not going to wash the dishes, then, I'm not available to drive you to your activity, or I'm not available. And it's not retaliation. I cannot say this enough. This is not about retaliation. This is about saying, I'm feeling disrespected about the level of contribution I make to this house and what I'm currently experiencing you giving. And until we can find a better agreement about that, it doesn't work for me to continue to overcompensate, because then I feel resentful and super frustrated. And I don't want that in my relationship with you. I don't want that. It takes a lot of energy. I want to feel respected, and I want to know that you feel respected. So we stay in conversation until we find a way to meet in the middle. Consequences are a way to connect. Consequences are not and never have been a way to control. If that is confusing for you, I understand. This isn't about intelligence. If you're like me, you were not raised understanding what healthy boundaries and consequences were. I wasn't. I was raised in an absolute authority home that was all about control, fear, and compliance. So I understand that. Okay? This is not, unfortunately, not taught in school. Don't ask me why. And so it can be really, really challenging. If you're looking for more information and you want to close this gap, okay, please join me in my 5-day challenge next week, starting January 10th. You can get there by tapping on my name, and then there's a link in my profile on Instagram that will bring you to another menu, and it's right at the top. Register for the 5-day challenge. If that's complicated, I understand. Just go to my website, alipayne.com, and there's a banner right at the top. You can hit that and enjoy, enroll in my 5-day challenge. There was over 1,000 people that took it last year in 2001. I look forward to having you starting January 10th, so you got to get in there soon. Yes, consequences and punishing are very different. So if this all, again, feels frustrating, join me in the 5-day challenge. If you're having troubles registering, just message me at alipayne, and I will absolutely do what I can to get you in there. Yes, this will be recorded on my profile and posted very quickly. It will also be over on my YouTube channel in a matter of moments. Yes, siblings, I'm happy to do something on that. Okay, thanks everybody for joining me today. I so appreciate that. I hope this has been helpful in dealing with your teenager on procrastination, chores, and when are you gonna get that done? To lower your stress and help you to connect with your teen in a really challenging time. Thanks everybody for being here. I am here next Thursday and every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. You can catch me on YouTube, Ali Payne, on TikTok at Ali Payne. And I look forward to seeing and hearing from all of you. Mwah! Give me a follow or subscribe. We'll see you soon. Bye.